Kelly's Court is back in session. On the docket today, up to a year behind bars for speaking out. A group of Muslim students from the University of California's Irvine campus now on trial, charged with disrupting a meeting back in February of last year. Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren giving a presentation about Palestinian relations at the time when the students began shouting scripted statements one by one. Emails between members of the Muslim Student Union show that the group knew they could be arrested for this. Now, despite an outcry from the ACLU and several other Muslim organizations, the men are being prosecuted, facing penalties from probation to fines and jail time. But should they get it? Let's ask our panel. Defense attorneys David Wohl and Mark Eiglarsh. All right, panel, so I just want, control room, if we can tee up the tape, because I want the viewers to see the evidence. Let's show the viewers what these students did to the Israeli ambassador, and keep in mind, they are charged with disrupting a meeting. You have to sort of have the intention to do it and then do it. Let's watch.
It is a source of frustration that as a person who spent much of his life speaking Hebrew...
Michael Oren, propagating murder is not an expression of free speech. Shut up!
And then later I met the foreign minister of Israel. Those of you who know him.
It goes. Now, let me start with you, Mark, because what they were yelling, it's tough to hear, is they're telling him he's a war criminal, he's a mass murderer, he's a baby killer, and on it went from there. Is that not disrupting a meeting?
I don't believe it is legally. Factually, I'm sure everybody's watching going, well, what's even the debate? But if you read appellate court decisions, the First Amendment gives wide latitude, not unbridled discretion to do or say whatever you want, but wide latitude to express even outrageous and offensive speech under the umbrella of First Amendment. There were numerous students who did similar activities and protested at other lectures who not only weren't arrested, but they weren't even chastised. They weren't even called out on their actions. So
how is that relevant?
I question the motivation.
How is that
selective
relevant?
prosecution. Selective prosecution. Maybe we don't like the message. Maybe because they're Muslims are being targeted.
That's exactly what the Muslim student groups are alleging, David, and others, suggesting that this is about bias against Muslims and trying to shut the Muslims up.
Megan, this was a well-orchestrated flash mob. This had nothing to do with free speech. This was a well-orchestrated, well-planned, and the emails prove it, attempt to destroy the ambassador's right of free speech. These people weren't standing up and making speeches on their own. They were shouting murderer at him. You couldn't even comprehend most of what they were saying. And there were emails indicating that the disruptor was supposed to stand up, and when the disruptor stood up, the other disruptors are supposed to cheer, Megan. There's no way in the world this can be interpreted as any type of legitimate free speech. It is appropriately prosecuted. In this DA, I have to say, Tony Rackauckus, the Orange County DA, is doing the right thing, not just to punish this conduct, this hate-filled conduct, by the way, but to deter it from happening again. That's the bottom line. And ironically, if the right thing had been done and they had been tossed out when the first one stood up, this prosecution may never have happened.
You know, Mark, one of the damning pieces in this case, and the reason I believe that these students were charged, was the emails that David mentions. The investigator for the university found emails from the Muslim Student Union asking students who want to disrupt, especially if they're not worried about being arrested, to go and do this, saying that this ambassador had no right to go to the university and say what he wanted. Now, I mean, there's a reason that they have a law against disrupting meetings like this, because they want to encourage free speech from the podium, and then someone can respond. But what these students did was talk over him to the point where he didn't have free speech.
Well, first of all, their protestations were limited to about 5 minutes, I've been told. Second of all, merely because there's emails that planned their exercise of free speech doesn't give them less protection under the Constitution. Consider Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King. I suppose that there were communications which indicated that they knew that they probably would be arrested. It doesn't then relieve them of their protections under the Constitution.
He seems to be contending, David, that this statute, this California statute disrupting of a meeting, is unconstitutional, that it is in and of itself a violation of the First Amendment.
No, you know,
Absolutely.
Megan, it really isn't. And here's the exact language here. It says acts
So where's
that
the dividing line,
substantially
David?
impact the course of the meeting. Acts that substantially impact the course of the meeting, such as getting up and shouting down someone else, make you guilty of that
But
statute.
he is arguing, but Mark doesn't
Okay.
seem to be disputing the text of the statute. He seems to be
Yeah.
saying the statute itself is an unconstitutional statute because it chills free speech. You can't say you can't speak in a way that's disruptive.
It doesn't
Megan,
chill
let me
free
illustrate
speech,
the
Megan.
point. Let me
Legitimate
illustrate
free
the point.
speech is getting up.
Hold on, let
How
Mark
about just
illustrate the
getting
point.
someone- Okay.
Can we carry this over control room?
Okay, let's.
You got it.
Okay, good. Mark, you make your
Let's
point, and then
change-
we're going to go to break.
Let's change the facts just for a second for the viewers. Let's say these weren't Muslims, because I know that's affecting a lot of people. Let's say they're non-Muslims, and the speaker
No, it's
was
not
somebody from the
affecting me.
Taliban. And the Taliban then says, okay, 9/11 was an important day in our history, and it should have happened. Let's say the students got up and did the same amount of disruption, as it's being called, as these Muslim students did. Would everyone be in favor of a prosecution of those Americans who stood up and said, how dare you Taliban say those things? Clearly, I know the answer to that.
All right.
So the question is...
We'll leave that.
Okay.
We'll leave that question. We'll leave that point hanging there, and we'll resume right after this break. Don't go away.
Each of these photos was taken by someone on the first morning of their retirement. It's the first of more than 6,000 sunrises the average retiree will see. As we're living longer than ever before, Prudential's challenge is to help everyone have the retirement income they'll need to enjoy every one of their days. Prudential. Bring your challenges.
Taking the diabetes drug Actos may increase the risk of bladder cancer. The FDA added a warning after studies show taking Actos may increase your risk of bladder cancer. Symptoms of bladder cancer include dark urine, urinary tract infections, painful or frequent urination, or the inability to urinate. You may be entitled to compensation if you or a loved one was diagnosed with bladder cancer after taking Actos. Please call 1-800-BAD-DRUG to discuss your rights. Call 1-800-BAD-DRUG now.
A countdown to disaster, why Obama's troop timeline could risk the lives of our soldiers and America's mission overseas. Greta gets insight from John McCain tonight on The Record.
Stop your tax debt from spinning out of control. StopIRSDebt.com has helped real people with real tax debt get real results. If you owe the IRS or state more than $10,000, it's time to get tough with your tax debt. Our legal team can tackle garnishments, penalties, payroll tax, audits, foreign banking, unfiled returns, and get you tax relief. Stand up to the IRS today. Call 800-409-0493 or go to StopIRSDebt.com.
Hi.
You know, I can save you 15% today if you open up a charge card account with us.
Identity thieves never stop coming up with ways to steal from you. They can open up an account in your name and go on a serious spending spree.
Do you have cufflinks? Gold ones?
Not on our watch. We're LifeLock. Go to lifelock.com and learn how our patented billion-point database can help protect you. Call 1-800-LifeLock today. LifeLock. Relentlessly protecting your identity.
You value your friends. So does DirecTV. Meg's worth 100. So are Mike, Carol, Bob, Jim, and Kay. For every friend you refer to DirecTV, you get $100 in bill credits, and they get $100 in bill credits on top of our best offer. Just give your account number to your friends and have them call 1-877-4-100 each. They must have your account number when they order. Refer up to 10 people and get $1,000 in bill credits. Then celebrate and watch the Benjamins stack up.
Now playing on DirecTV Cinema.
Oh no, this is Earth, isn't it?
Who are you?
You'll see soon enough.
I will destroy everything.
These people are innocent. You're big. Fought bigger.
That's more like it.
Thor. Movies start at Channel 125.
All right, picking back up with defense attorneys David Wohl and Mark Eiglarsh. Mark, to your point, the California Supreme Court has already upheld this statute and has said that this is constitutional to the extent you can show that the speech, that the protests substantially impair the effective conduct of a meeting, substantially impair the effective
What
conduct.
does
of it.
that mean, Megan?
And number two,
what does that mean?
And number two, that it was that they look at what was said by the authorities during the meeting as evidence of whether the university would typically allow this. Now, here is one piece of evidence of what the authorities there said while these students were disrupting the ambassador. Watch.
This is beyond embarrassing. I have been a faculty member here for 26 years. I have been a faculty member here for 26 years. This is no way for our undergraduate students to behave. We have the opportunity.
It seems pretty clear, David, that the students were on notice, that they knew it wasn't going to be tolerated, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
Over and over and over again, Megan. And to Mark's point, Megan, inciting a riot, that is not protected free speech. Shouting fire in a crowded theater, also not protected.
That's not what they did, David.
Should have done
That's not what they did.
Very easily. That's not what they did, but it's akin to that, and that's why the statute addresses it. What they did was shouting down free speech, destroying everyone's free speech.
And speaking to your point, Mark,
it's illegal in the state of California.
Speaking of the point you made before the break, Mark, about, had this been somebody from the Taliban and saying what you suggested, do you not agree, Mark, that the bedrock of the First Amendment is that the answer to speech you don't like is not less speech, it's more speech? And these students canceled out that ambassador's right to have his say. There was going to be a Q&A after his remarks at which they could have said whatever they wanted. That wasn't good enough for them.
This lasted 5 minutes, and if these guys yelled out, "We love falafels, we love Israel, we're so in favor of you," and they did it for the same amount of time, they never would have been prosecuted.
It's very interesting.
Because it wouldn't have been a disruption.
Listen,
that's plain and simple.
Invite
your own speaker, Mark.
Because David Wohl says it's not a disruption. So in other words, it's whatever you deem a disruption. That's what makes it all vague.
Mark, David, thank you both so much. One final word. This statute exists for a reason. You cannot intentionally disrupt a meeting and silence a person's speech. The law protects free speech. It doesn't stifle it. The students here violated that law and are likely to be found guilty. We'll be right back.